Happy Sunday. Welcome back into another episode of the Zig Zone, the only show keeping you up to date with everything going on in the world of Falcon athletics. I'm Holden Ruck, your host from the Falcon Media Sports Network, and as always, I'm joined by a talented team of analysts from Falcon Media Sports Network. I'm going to start to my right here with Ben Korak. How are we doing, Ben?
Pretty good. How are you, Holden?
Glad to be here. It's a little dreary outside, but the studio is nice and comfy, so yeah, it's good to be here. Noah Seeley. How are we doing, Noah?
Pretty good. First time on, so I'm excited.
Glad to have you here. Sean Connolly, one of our football specialists, returning. How are we doing, Sean?
Doing good, yeah. Glad to be back on.
And last but certainly not least, Foster Rostai. Good to have you here, buddy.
It's good to be here, man.
This show, as always, is a presentation of Falcon Media Sports Network, WBGU 88.1 FM, and BG Falcon Media. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the sport that I think has been commanding the most attention this year, and rightfully so, with the football team, who ended last week on a really, really high note. I mean, a generational rivalry game win, genuinely, to score 28 unanswered points. And I think fans and maybe the team alike really looked past this game against Central Michigan, and boy, did the Falcons get punched in the mouth. Sean, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I felt like yesterday was probably like the blandest game I think I've ever seen in a long time. Obviously dating back to a Leffler-led team, but like easily probably the worst game I think I've seen from the Eddie George era. It was a very bland game that like there was really nothing positive about that game, like at all. Obviously Cleather 2 for 2 on field goals, but like other than really that, like we knew we know he's good, so like yeah. I don't even count that as like a positive, quote unquote, where like you can look at that and be like, Cleather made 2 field goals, but like there was nothing yesterday that was like exciting from the team, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys felt like that, but like there was nothing that I felt like was like, well, they can get better at this and like be fine. No, I especially after last week's win, you're like, this team might turn the corner. And like Eddie George said it last week after the game, was like, this team grew up today. Like this was a team, like we saw it. And then credit to Tyler, he asked him yesterday after the game, he's like, you said last week that this team grew up. Like, what happened today? And he just was like that. I think it falls on me. I didn't get this team ready enough.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a team that I don't think pundits, fans, etc., had the expectation of, making their way to Detroit, contending for the MAC title. But, I mean, they've been open that, they believe that the expectation, the standard, and the capability is there from the gate. Whether you bought into that or not, I think this is still really just a shocking result. I mean, to be clear, not just a loss, but 27-6 in front of your home crowd, and a pretty packed home crowd too. I mean, the Doy has been bumping this year.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday's crowd was 23,105. Like that's impressive. Like, I guess if there's one positive, it was the crowd yesterday, because like we continue to draw on fans, which is great. I love it. But if that was the product we saw, I don't know like what's to come after that. But yeah, again, just a very bland game that like nothing was really like what's worth talking, obviously, other than that Central. Yeah, we talked a little bit before, is like Central, like credit to them, they won, but like we were the ones that shot ourselves in the foot. A couple picks, and credits. It wasn't, I don't think, Lucian Anderson's fault, especially on the second one. I think the first one went right through Cam and Petaway's like hands, and then it just went right into the defender. So it was like his interceptions weren't really his fault. So if you look at the box score, you're like, 2 interceptions. Lucian probably played bad. I don't know. It just, like I said, pretty bland, and nothing was really positive from any side of the ball yesterday.
Yeah, I thought they weren't like the best throws in the world, but I don't think he deserved interceptions on them necessarily.
That's always something. It's like when you look at the box score, it's like 2 interceptions. It's like I wish it said
actually watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But also, like, I think a lot of the times this season we've seen, games that they haven't played well, but at least you can fall to like, Eddie George like seemed to have a nice play, like a play call here, or like at least the outlook was nice. They had the right, game plan. It didn't feel like anything was, like you said, not anything went well. I don't even think the coaching staff or the game plan went well. Well, it didn't feel like they had a game plan really, and even if they did, it was not executed. And there were certain play calls here and there that, I get your quarterbacks out, but you didn't establish the run enough, and your passing game has been pretty sizably weak all year. So, like, what were you really aiming to do when you came into the game?
Well, even like the OU game, like there was at least some positive there. Like we put up, I don't exactly remember how many points we put up, but I think we put like 27, something like that. Yeah, whereas 20. Like you had enough, like at least positives in that game where it's like, okay, we know it's there. Ohio's a great team. Like we can piece this together. And then yesterday with their second MAC loss, it's like, what happened? We went backwards. And I think Eddie George even said it. He was like 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. Like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about this, but I do want to listen to the opening statement from Eddie George's press conference yesterday following the loss.
Extremely disappointed in the really in the whole outcome of the game. Clearly didn't get the job done. That falls on my shoulders. I didn't have this team ready to play coming off of last week. This didn't have the umph, the momentum shift. We didn't have any momentum plays that we could build off of to generate any type of offense or defense or anything to sway the game. My hat goes off to Central Michigan. They came in with a phenomenal game plan. They stuck to it. We made some errors early on they took advantage of. And against a team like that gets ball control, it's tough to come back from when you're trying to find some type of offensive momentum, some offensive spark, which we've been struggling to find for the most part of the past couple of weeks and certainly this year. So, and it showed, when you get 15 penalties or so, that doesn't help. So the penalties, turnovers did not help us at all in this ball game. So that falls on my shoulders. I have to get better. I take ownership of that. I challenge my team to take ownership as well. To figure out, where we have to go. The obstacle is the way. The only way we're going to get better is to go through this. This is a part of the process, unfortunately. It stinks. It hurts. It's disappointing. But we have a lot to learn, a lot of ball left, and we're just going to go back to work and figure it out.
A lot of work left indeed. And I get what Coach George is saying there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of accountability, which I think all the fans certainly appreciate. But, I mean, just the degree of difference between yesterday and the performance against Toledo, who, I mean, granted, beat themselves a little bit in
definitely.
that same kind of penalty situation, but is also a much more talented team.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And even with, Central Michigan yesterday, Eddie George even said they came in with a game plan, executed it well. It's like Central Michigan is, built like an armed forces school. They literally run the ball and that's it. They literally only passed the ball 5 times yesterday and 3 of them were completions. Granted, one of them was for 65 yards, something like that. But they literally run the ball just down your throat, and if you can't stop it, it's going to be a long day. And yesterday felt like a long day for the Falcons, and they just couldn't stop what they were doing. And it's at that point you just kind of be like, all right, on to the next game, because not every team is obviously built like that, but it does tell you, it's how good is this run defense for the Falcon defense? So,
And it is tough because you'd think there'd be way more momentum after that Toledo win. So even though it is a 27-6 loss, I mean, even getting some type of positive out of that game would have been nice going into the rest of the season, just having momentum. And I think it's almost all gone at this point.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I mean,
and it's just a classic week after a huge win, probably the biggest win we've all experienced at school, and then you just fall just right on your face, where it's just well, we're back at square one, where it's where do we go from here?
Yeah, it just kind of felt like a hangover.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's all I can explain it as.
And I think the tough thing, too, especially for fans, looking at this team, I mean, clearly a lot of optimism, a lot of hope for them. And, they can still have a good season. I'm on record saying I think this tenure is already more successful than the last if they win a bowl game this year. That's my opinion on the matter. But that in mind, you look at the remaining slate of the schedule, you've got teams like Kent State and Akron and UMass on there. Those are teams that realistically, the Falcons should be able to get a win over. But even if you do win those, you're at 6 wins, you're bowl eligible. After the high that fans felt from that comeback Toledo win and the momentum and the homecoming win, it still somehow feels like a letdown. And I think that's an interesting... It brings an interesting question on how our evaluation of the season has shifted so rapidly.
I think it was just because of the way they played. If they played well enough yesterday, again with positives, maybe throughout the game, it would be a little different. I think yesterday showed us it's how good is this team? We don't know. And again, you said looking at the schedule, I mean, you should win at least 4 more games. I'm sorry, I know that's crazy to say, but like you're facing Kent State, Buffalo, Eastern Michigan, Akron, and UMass.
That's not crazy.
not, yeah.
The only loss on that schedule that like you could truly say is Buffalo, but yesterday you said, Ben, like they didn't look that good.
I don't think Buffalo's really that good.
So you could win out and be completely fine. It's like, okay, that would be a successful season in my opinion for Eddie George's first year, but you should at least win 4 out of the 5 remaining, in my opinion.
And I think the other thing that also fans in general need to take into account is like the Eddie George effect. I feel like that also probably propelled us a little bit farther into the spotlight and win total wise.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone looks at it like, oh, you have Eddie George. He was this great all-time college running back. You guys are going to play good, and that's not always necessarily the case. So I feel like it kind of just depends.
Yeah, it really, really is case to case. You mentioning, obviously, storied running back as a player himself. I'm really, really caught up on the offensive performance because, you mentioned the military style, play call distribution from Central Michigan. I really would have liked to see more passing out of the Bowling Green offense. I know that Lucian Anderson is being, I guess, kind of regarded by everybody at this point as sort of an unknown entity, but like we've seen attempts that indicate that he has arm strength to throw downfield, whether or not it's particularly accurate. We've seen that he has mobility to, it's not always, but sometimes escape pressure if he's looking for a target. I don't think you're lacking anything with Lucian Anderson that you had in the quarterback position when Drew Pine was starting. We already weren't throwing the ball much, but I mean, I struggle to understand some of the logic with a bit of the play calling.
Yeah, yesterday I think really opened it up. It's like, well, granted, it was windy yesterday, so throwing the ball was a little tougher. I think it was like 16-mile-per-hour winds. I'm not sure exactly the gusts. So that probably did play a factor in probably some of the play call where you do have to keep it on the ground, which it did favor Central Michigan. They run the ball a lot. Literally, they're technically backup quarterback. They do run a 2-quarterback system. Ran for 3 touchdowns yesterday. All of them, he really went in like untouched. So, again, the run game you'd think would favor Bowling Green just because of the background Eddie George has, as well as that we do have some good backs. Like Cameron Petaway is like a really explosive running back. Chris McMillan's very good. Kadarius Roberts very good. Like we do have a lot of good running backs, but yesterday just didn't seem to be their day. I mean, our leading rusher was Lucian Anderson with 74 yards. So I like to see that. I think that is very positive because what I think when you compare it with Drew Pine, where it's like Lucian Anderson can use his legs, and I think that adds a factor to game prep for when you do have to face Bowling Green, that, hey, Lucian Anderson can use his legs. I'd like to see him roll out a little more with play calls, like a play action, and he rolls out. So if he does need to use his legs to gain some yards, he can, or find a receiver. So I think that was really frustrating yesterday, was not seeing that.
And I'm with you. Oh, good.
I also just don't think that, a lot of the games this year, even in ones that they've lost, you've been able to say, like, the offensive line played well. I don't really think the offensive line... They were kind of getting bullied by Central Michigan's defensive line.
Bullied and
for mobile quarterback, like how... Lucian Anderson should never get sacked twice.
No.
With as good of an offensive line as they have, and with the legs that he has, like, he shouldn't get sacked.
Yeah, and even Tyler...
And twice isn't a lot, but, like, it's just enough.
With the expectations with the offensive line going into the season, like, this is probably one of the best units in the MAC. I don't think they've lived up to that standard so far this year. I don't think that they've played particularly bad, I don't think that they played up to their standards, and I think they know that, and it's what Eddie George even says, like, there's accountability here, and I think we all have to kind of look at ourselves and, like, what do we need to do as a team that can get us better. Yesterday they just kind of...
Yeah, I think they've been good, but yesterday I think was definitely the first time this 100%. Year that I've been like, well, they really just didn't play well. And that's, the foundation of your entire offense. The passing game can't function properly if your O-line's, getting pummeled, and the run game is certainly going to suffer a little bit. And they had a decent amount of rush yards, but, it just... I don't know. It just didn't seem like the most stable part of their game throughout the entire season played well either, and that's not... I think it's more the outlier than anything. Like, I think it's more likely that they're going to come out and stomp on Kent State and win their next 5 games. I think that's... I mean, they haven't had 2 bad games in a row, really. And they've had 2 good games in a row, so... Yeah.
Is it crazy like looking at the rankings, like to say that we like in a way had a tougher non-conference schedule than we did last year. I know playing at Penn State was really tough, but like A&M ended up not being that good. Now look at it. I think Louisville's ranked like 16, and I think Cincinnati's ranked 21. Both those teams are only getting better as the season goes on. And we played.
And Louisville just beat Miami.
Exactly. Yeah. So like
it was number 2.
That game obviously was a little tough, but like Cincinnati game, like there was some positives in that game. Yeah. So I don't know. Is it crazy to say that like this year's non-conference schedule is, I would say, at least on par with what was it last year?
I think it's pretty close.
Going into the season, you're like, okay, kind of a step back. But now looking at it midway through the season, where it's like both these teams are pretty good that we played.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's like what we talked about before. Like Loeffler, like he would have played Cincinnati and Louisville tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would have played closer, or maybe even been like a one-score game, and it would have been great. But you would have lost to Liberty, and you would have got. I mean, is that not what he did against Penn State and A&M?
I agree, but we're also talking about a completely different roster, top to bottom. You know what I mean? I think that plays in as much as the coaching difference. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the roster this year isn't as good as it was last year.
Right? No, I agree with that.
And in which case, I think top to bottom, this team has been better coached, and that's why it's more of a
100%.
Smack in the mouth that it wasn't well coached yesterday at a game that you really needed to win for the best chance at a MAC championship. Which I guess you still have an outside chance of.
I mean, last year, no team that was in the MAC championship had 2 losses in the MAC. So, in a way, we're kind of eliminated. But obviously, crazier things have happened. But
and again, you look at like the top of the MAC too. Miami has to play Buffalo and Western. Buffalo has to play Bowling Green. So there's a road. Just doesn't seem very likely.
Yeah, we're not out of it, but
it'll come down to tiebreakers and who
that doesn't really favor us. So
no.
I don't think we'll make it, which stinks. But I think there still is a lot to play for this year, and a bowl game's still on the table. You have very favorable opponents. Obviously, it's the MAC; anything can happen. So obviously, there's, like I said, a lot to still play for, and I think a bowl appearance, and even like you said earlier in the show, or it might have been before the show, Holden, it's like a win would be very successful. Yeah. Like already speaking that Loeffler was 0-3 in bowl games, and if Eddie George comes in year 1 and wins one, I think that'd be pretty monumental for this program.
I'd have to pull the tape, but I know Ben was there when we did like a live segment, like discussion thing, and one of the topics was like expectations coming into this year, well before even the summer, like this past spring. And I think if you average out Ben, myself, Tyler, and Lucas, the predicted win total was probably like 4.5.
I think there's literally one in the Convergence Lab, like somebody made it, I can't remember who it was, and it was like an over under of like 3.5 wins. And I put myself on the side of the over, of course, but like like the expectations, I think, like a year or back in the spring were a little like lower, and then when you kind of see this team first couple weeks, it's like, okay, we can go to a bowl game, we can win a bowl game, like that kind of was the standard with Eddie George. It's like his expectations, or his name just brings more expectations.
The only thing now that I see as a problem is because Eddie George's name is on your program, and because you're probably going to finish with 7 or most likely, 7 wins. You're probably going to get a pretty good team in the bowl, which is going to make it much more difficult 100%. To win it. Yeah. But you aren't going to suffer from what you did quite a bit last year. Is seniors are just not. I mean, you don't really have anybody that might not play. Maybe a couple of guys, but not like impact guys like Harold Fannin missing a ton of snaps, and Terrion Stewart missing snaps, and So I think they're. I said it before. They haven't played 2 bad games in a row yet, and Kent State's not very good. So I think definitely it's a great game to get you back on track, especially on the road. Buffalo's still going to be a big one. Whether you think they're good or not, that's still probably your biggest game remaining on the schedule. And then you should beat Eastern, Akron, and UMass. So your take isn't that far off. That 4 wins.
I think four out of the next 5 is very doable, and I think very possible. So I think if they win 4 out of 5, I think it would brush away what happened for the first 3 MAC games. Obviously, you did win Toledo, but like you said, we needed some breaks last week. We could realistically be 0-3 in MAC play.
Yeah, I mean that Toledo one, as exciting as it was. I mean, if you take those 2 teams and you play that game 10 times over, I mean, what do you think the ratio is there? I don't know my answer, but I don't think it necessarily
Would favor
favors the
Bowling Green,
Falcons.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's probably like 7 to 8 wins for Toledo. I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that second half was abysmal for them.
Yeah, it was.
just
It was one of the worst halves I've ever seen of football.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
turnovers. I mean,
Didn't score. Technically, they scored, but that was because of last play of the game. Lucian
scored
went
for
that's
them.
it.
But yeah, so like they didn't score since I think midway through the second quarter, and so credit to Bowling Green's defense. But where was that team? Like, where was that this past week? Like I said, I don't understand. And it is a MAC program. You're not gonna, it's just it can happen any week. Of like anybody can beat anybody.
And at least there was accountability from Eddie George.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
presumably the coaching staff as well.
Yeah.
But like, I remember a couple of times last year that there was poor losses, and it was like, well, we should have done this as a team, whatever. It wasn't a whole lot of like direct accountability, which I think is a powerful thing for any team, but especially in football. That's such a group effort for the head coach, first year head coach.
Yeah,
to come
one
out
of
and say, I didn't do my job.
One of the players yesterday that was for the post game conference was Gideon Lampron. That dude is always he always smiles. Like he never doesn't have a smile on his face, and even after a loss. And so he was literally with a smile. He's like, yeah, we're gonna probably have to run a ton Monday and Tuesday. So he knows that there's gonna be some accountability, and it's, I wouldn't say specifically on him, but as a unit, it's we got to get better. And I just don't think we saw that yesterday. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they rebound from Kent. And I think, like you said, this is a perfect game to rebound from and get a win.
And I think it really does come down to what the outcome of that Kent State game is. Does it lean towards the way of the Central Michigan game, or does it lean towards the way of the Toledo game?
Yeah.
Because if it leans towards the Central game, then the question still stands: was the Toledo game a fluke, or was the Central a fluke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think it's really valuable to have a get-right game against Kent State here because, I mean, I feel like and I mentioned this earlier, I think before we went on air, I feel like every good team, great team, teams with expectations of winning postseason games in any manner, often, most times, have some sort of loss that they learn from. I think it's a lot easier to learn about your weaknesses in a loss than a win. But if Bowling Green were to come out from this Central Michigan loss and lay an egg, even play close with a team that, should pretty strictly be worse, I think that will only exacerbate concerns and only should. Not necessarily in, the ability of this staff to get the team ready, but, just this team is an entire package, you know?
I just don't feel like that would happen, though.
I
feel
don't
like
think so either.
I feel like through their 7 games, they probably played 5 or 6 good games.
Yeah.
Which and I think you're more probably going to be favored against every team the rest of the way. And if you just play well, you'll be fine. I just don't see. They might have another flop game, and that'll something to address. It'll definitely be maybe it's definitely a talking subject for us, but maybe a problem if it does happen. But I just don't see them coming out and playing like they did against Central Michigan again.
No,
I don't think Eddie George will let that happen.
Yeah, he's not letting that.
By
He's an excellent motivator, and I think that's why the expectations that we know, we've seen it around the program, where it's this team isn't as roster wise as good as it was last year, but the expectations were a little higher because of Eddie George. But that's also because of the way that he talks and he coaches. It's I want to play for that guy. I didn't play a down of football in I flag football, but tackle football. But I'm still I want to run through a wall. And I can't imagine. Oh yeah, I was actually quarterback. So yeah. But even myself, like I said, I can't imagine what the players are like. So I agree. Eddie George will not allow another game like this back-to-back weeks. If we do see it, it might be a couple weeks from now. But I think Eddie George will get the guys ready. Because he won't allow it. And again, there's accountability, and I think a lot of players know that. So. And
again, I don't think, obviously, we think that there's going to be at least 4 to 5 wins on the schedule the rest of the way. I would not say it's a problem if we do drop the Buffalo game or the Eastern game somewhere down the road. I think it's okay if you do. I don't think it's going to be this horrible thing.
Yeah.
No.
I worry about we saw Toledo lose, and they came out against Kent State really slow. They let up that first play touchdown, 75 yards, and then they figured it out. So that's something I want to watch out for against Kent State this next week. Because Kent State, as bad as they are in the MAC, they've played teams very tightly to start games.
Well, and the other thing is, it's anything can happen in the MAC. Yeah. We say it this should be an easy win, but you have to play your opponent as if it's the same matchup. You can't just assume you're going to beat them. So
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I want to say the ESPN odds were like 78% in favor of Bowling Green beating Central this weekend. So I mean,
Exactly.
there's no givens in these games. I don't think.
I mean, as of right now, Bowling Green's favored by 8.5 against Kent, which like you'd think.
it should be.
That feels lower than what it
At
should be,
least
though.
I'd say.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
You look at Kent, and you're like, oh, that's probably like a 15.5 type of game, but now it's 8.5. Where it's
But
like,
I think for a lot of people too, they haven't watched Kent State.
Oh, 100%,
They have
yeah.
played better,
yeah.
but I don't think they come into any game being, thinking that they're going to come away with a win.
Oh, no, no.
Oh,
you
yeah,
just
not
can't
at
play
all.
a game
As
like that.
as viewers though, we do,
Yeah,
but as
we do.
players, it's like
Yes.
okay, we
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
go into this game like
100%.
playing our tails off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thinking of
Yeah.
it from a fan perspective,
Yeah.
definitely. You look into it a different way than the players do.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that actually I feel like we saw a little bit last year versus this year. I felt like the team just looked kind of lackadaisical and unprepared last year in the Old Dominion game.
Oh yeah.
And like that looks like a game where you walked in and said, "This team's 0-3, we're going to be fine," and then just kind of half-efforted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was.
But that doesn't feel like this year's team's identity at all.
No, not at all.
So
But yeah, that game was brutal. The Old Dominion game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was homecoming. We'd played, I think, Texas A&M the week prior and like really well.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks prior, we played Penn State super well. It's like, okay, we should win this game. Granted, they were 0-3 and they played their opponents pretty well, and then they just kind of fell.
sneaky good this year, by the way. Old
yeah.
Dominion.
Old Dominion, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Buffalo, Bowling Green traveling to Buffalo, I should say, on Saturday, November 1st. Not their next game, but the next.
No, that's a home
I
game.
think.
The Buffalo game.
Buffalo is the
Buffalo's
We're
on
playing
Penn
at
State.
Kent.
They're
Then
on the road at Kent.
Dude,
My
that's perfect.
mistake.
Oh, man.
Get me out of here, goodness,
Goodness.
chairman. No, Bowling Green will go to Kent this weekend for another noon kickoff. Say your applause and whatnot for the noon kickoff. I know everybody's a big fan of that.
I don't mind
Noon
it.
time slot.
For Bowling Green, I don't
midweek
mind
games
it.
Do we have?
Huh?
What midweek games do we have?
We only have 2 this
Akron,
year.
Only 2?
UMass.
Akron and UMass,
This
and then
doesn't
the last
feel like
UMass
we're-
is at UMass Thanksgiving week, so like,
Yeah,
and that's
so
on a
barely.
Tuesday. Remember,
Yeah.
I think last year we were talking about it pregame where it's like our last game was like the day after Thanksgiving on the
Yeah, it
Friday.
was Black Friday.
Can
Black
you think of
Friday.
a harder sell than for in-person tickets than Bowling Green at UMass? I mean, you got the Eddie George effect, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Bowling Green at UMass, November 25th.
I don't feel like
Two
there's
two
that
days
big of
before
a-
Thanksgiving, like yeah.
I don't
no,
think there's that big of an Eddie George factor in
No.
Massachusetts.
no,
No,
100%. Yeah.
And that would be the only thing saving that game. Really, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we only have 2, which I think I've said previously on Zig Zones. It's like I don't like midweek action. I know that's a crazy take,
Whoa.
but like I'm not a big fan of it, and so I'm
Average
glad that
noon kickoff fan.
for Bowling Green, I don't mind nude kickoffs. But when it comes to midweek, like I'm glad we only have 2 of them. So
Well, I just think a bigger school could get away with midweek kickoff better than a MAC school could. Like if not saying that it should ever happen, but like if Notre Dame played on a Tuesday, they would still pack it.
That
But
would
if
be
Bowling Green plays on a
crazy.
Tuesday, they would not necessarily pack it like they would at a noon kickoff against Central Michigan.
I
So and you're moving college football to midweek where there isn't really any meaningful games anyway. Like I just
you might
it
be
was
selling
always,
me on this.
It just always confused me that like
no, I kind of
it's TV viewership because
Yeah.
they wouldn't
Give
like
them their bye
for
week
sure.
right
The-
after it, so they don't have to worry about
like
that.
they when they started the Thursday football games, like they made it good matchups because they wanted people to watch. Like if you
like
make
the
it,
NFL. You're saying like
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry if I didn't say that, but like if you make it bad games, like if you make it like what they're doing with the European games now, like it's just nobody's gonna care.
Yeah.
So
I just feel like last year Bowling Green had a lot of like Saturday kicks that were like 5 o'clock, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't
It's
like
like,
that.
okay.
I'd rather it be noon, and then you have the rest of the day, and that's why I've enjoyed with the noon kickoffs.
I
I'm
do
actually
like
even
noon
okay
kickoffs.
with like committing to a night slot if that's what like the 7 o'clock kick. I know it's been more of an action like Tuesday night thing lately. I'd be okay with that on a Saturday too. I know that's probably controversial to some, but I think like it maintains the stage and environment, makes it accessible to fans. What I don't like is like the 3:30, 5 o'clock. Like I'm trying to figure out when I'm gonna eat. As a
Exactly,
fan, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can get concessions, but I just feel like the whole you're like boxing in the entire day with
Yeah,
3:30 to
exactly.
5.
Yeah.
That's why a noon kick I don't mind because, like I said, you have the rest of the day to kind of unwind. But I was just a thought that I just had. Like, imagine if like midweek there's like a noon kickoff, Bowling Green, Kent. Like, who would show up?
Oh my word!
Like, could you imagine that?
I would skip every class. I would.
You'd have to close down the university and it's like, hey, go to the game. Like, that would work.
You would have to.
Yeah. I mean, your row's definitely getting the free Jets pizza for what it's worth because there's
Exactly.
only 2 rows with people.
100%. Yeah.
You think that would be a good promo of like if the university gave all students like no classes today because we have football?
Could
Like,
you imagine if they said like we will cancel? So like they do it for the first time, and they say, hey, we're making a noon kick on or a
We're doing a
3:30
noon
kick, whatever. Like
but
an
there's
afternoon
no
kick
class.
midweek. We're canceling if we don't have like this set a number of attendance from students. Like we're not going to cancel class again.
Yeah.
Like so, I think that would drag people into.
I think it would.
Oh, the Doy would be packed.
That's what I'm saying. So like.
At least of students.
Yeah,
At least for students, it's student
full,
attendance. Like if you could get that, I don't know what number it would be set at, but like if they're like, hey, if we have this, we're gonna cancel classes again next week for the same type
It
of
might
game.
be more viable to not do that for football, but to do it like for
Like a volleyball game, yeah.
Yeah,
It would never
hockey
happen,
game.
but it would never happen.
Yeah.
It's a hypothetical, but
Yeah.
it just is
Close
kind of
the
fun to think of
classrooms,
it.
he says.
Yeah, close the class.
Close them up.
Yeah.
Close them up.
But just a fun thought. But yeah, I'm not the biggest midweek guy when it comes to action. So I'm glad we only have 2 of those, and so it just doesn't mess with them as much.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Last year I think we had like 4, and it's just like
what are the 2 midweek?
It's the last
Akron and
and
UMass,
Oh,
and they're both on Tuesdays. So
Oh,
But at least it's not like a Tuesday Toledo game.
yeah.
that
That would be
I-
insane.
That
Yeah.
I was never happy with those. So
No.
Yeah, but the snowball at night wouldn't have been the same if it was the snowball at noon, 2022.
That's fair.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
your
on a
rivalry
Tuesday it
game shouldn't be
sucks,
midweek, in
but
my opinion.
Rivalry,
I agree.
yeah,
Should,
rivalry
yeah.
games just need to be a Saturday.
Yeah,
I
rivalry
think
games
we're
are
all.
always Saturdays.
100%.
I love how often this talking point comes out. This is like the third show in a
Yeah,
row.
I was gonna say we
We've
talk
talked
about
about it.
Saturday games every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
It's just because
It's always relevant.
Saturdays is college football.
Yeah,
And,
Saturdays.
like,
Oh, without a
college
doubt.
football.
It is.
I don't know.
Tuesdays
yeah.
in Mac though, baby.
Mm.
Bowling Green will travel to Kent this weekend, October 25th for that noon kickoff. As always, you can check out bgfalconmedia.com to keep up with all of our content from the game. We'll also have theoretically a broadcast of that, but actually that may be pending further troubleshooting. So I guess we will
We will
about
see.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
currently supposed to be on the call with Aiden Bruick. I don't know who's writing
Oh, you're
recap.
talking due to water.
Yeah, due to some
Okay.
Yes.
some technical
Okay.
potential technical limitations.
I was like,
yeah, we'll keep you updated on that one. But yeah, I know I'll be on the call. I don't know who's doing recap and sidebar and all that. But that'll all be posted on falconmedia.com. So we will have should have a broadcast.
we
We'll
plan
see.
to have
We
a
plan to have a
We have a
broadcast, but we will
broadcast.
see. There has been some technical difficulties here at the Cooling Center.
As always, on all your social platforms, check out BG Falcon Media and Falcon Media Sports Network as well to keep up with all of that. Moving along, we're going to talk about a team that I think has a much bleaker outlook for the rest of their season. To be completely blunt, sorry, Lucas. It is what it is. We're going to talk about men's soccer. Taking a loss this weekend. They only have 3 Missouri Valley Conference games remaining. They were riding, I said in the intro, very high off of a 3-1 second half comeback against Bradley on senior night. Felt like they might have righted the ship a little bit, get some points in the Valley. And then they traveled to Drake on Saturday, 8:30 p.m. kickoff for us, which a bit of a late one there. Yeah. And an 0-2 loss is the result. And granted, Drake is a good team. They are 6-0-6 overall. They're 1-0-3 in the Missouri Valley Conference, so they haven't dropped a game. Obviously, that's a good squad, but it also, I think, is going to all but spell the end of postseason hopes for the Falcons this year. If you look at their remaining schedule, they've got Western Michigan this Saturday. The following Friday, Halloween, they have their home finale hosting UIC. And then that following Wednesday after Halloween, which Wednesday is a fun day to play a game, they'll go to DeKalb to take on Northern Illinois in their regular season finale. All 3 of those teams currently above Bowling Green in the Missouri Valley Conference standings right now. Out of 8 teams, 6 make the tournament. Bowling Green is currently 7th with Bradley, who they've already played and beaten, at 8th. Thoughts around the studio, guys? I don't think it looks good.
Okay, I will say one thing. If you look at the points, these 6 teams can make it into Missouri Valley Conference postseason play.
How many teams are there?
There's 8.
There's 8.
We're in
Okay.
7th right now with 3 points. Western Michigan and Belmont both sit at 5. Then Northern Illinois, Drake, UNC have 6. So we're not technically speaking out of it.
Well, I will also say this too. I know Noah's going to want to interject because he's our soccer guy.
All good.
Western Michigan and Belmont both play 2 of the top 3 teams.
Yes,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So, like, I think you still handle your own business.
Yes, you have to handle
now,
your own
whether
business.
or not that's
though.
going to happen because Western Michigan generally owns you. Is one thing, but you do have the easier schedule out of those 3 bubble teams.
So I was on the broadcast last Friday for the Bradley game, and I had mentioned that game. Even if we had lost that game, we wouldn't have been mathematically eliminated, but it would have been very hard to come back from. After that win, even with the Drake loss, I don't think it's over for us to make the tournament at whatsoever. But we have teams that we can beat on the schedule left. So I'm not afraid of us not making it, especially when 6 out of the 8 make it. It doesn't scare me at all.
Yeah.
To be honest. I mean,
anything can happen when you get in. Who was it last year? Was it Belmont?
Evansville.
Evansville. Were they like 6 out of 6 when?
Yeah, it was 5th or 6th, one of the
and
lowest.
And they ended up winning it, right?
Yeah.
So anything can happen when you get in. So that should be at least something that they should talk about. Like, hey, all we have to do is get in, and it's a brand new season.
And I think the other thing is, a lot of people thought this men's team was going to be a little bit better than they are because they have Trace Terry, because they have Andrew Schaefer, because they have Bennett Painter. All those guys, you think, oh, this team's going to be a lot better. When it comes to the tournament, it could completely flip the season, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's enough firepower. Like, I just don't... Like, the team has played under what their value probably is.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, you go into the last 3 games, a team gets hot, and you have Trace Terry and Bennett Painter and Andrew Schaefer, and your goalie gets hot, and, you know, you're Evansville from last year, or you're at least winning 2 out of your last 3 and making it, and, you know, once you make it, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels so weird talking so highly after a loss,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is the one game for them that you can, because Drake is such a good team.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Like, it
Drake's
doesn't-
Yeah.
Are they still undefeated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the
so-
thing. Like, as a beat, I was not expecting to win that game. Obviously, it's like it would have been nice if they did, but I wasn't expecting even a tie. I was expecting the loss, so I'm not like upset about it. And I see our schedule ahead, and I'm not afraid.
They played them very well in the first half.
Yeah.
If you watched it, inches away from a goal off a corner kick, off just a little redirect that bounced off the post, and it was 3 corner kicks in a row that they could not find the back of the net. And then coming out of the second half, Drake got a shot that was blocked and then rebounded by one of their players and put it in the net. And right after that, with the weather like it was, I mean, we talk about bad weather here today. Much heavier rain, wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour there yesterday. And in the second half, Bowling Green was kicking into the wind. So when your goalie is trying to kick into the wind and it's pushing it back, 20 yards in the air,
Yeah.
and they're having problems getting it up the field. They had their opportunities. They just could not capitalize on it.
Yeah, I just do feel like, after our next Zig Zone, that the Western Michigan's going to be, like, if you lose straight up to Western Michigan, you're
then
Without a doubt.
I think that's,
you're
but
toast.
if you tie or take a win, I think it's looking pretty good. Because UIC, who you play, also plays Western Michigan. So if you hand them a loss, pretty good chance. I mean, UIC is a top 3 team, so you can hand Western 2 losses, and then you're automatically in because I don't think Bradley's going to make a move.
And another thing to look at is we did have someone new in net the past 5 games with Jason Ball.
Yep.
In every game that has been at Cochran Stadium, he's 2-0. He's 0-3 on the road. If you pick up that win against Western, based off of this, like the way it's been going, you should pick up that win against UIC at home.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on it really does depend on how the Western Michigan game is. Like if they win that match, that's his first win on the road, then coming back to Bowling Green, I can expect another win there.
Yeah.
So like I said, I just don't see them being out of it anytime soon.
And not to mention, you beat Western last year for the first time, and I forget how long, 10 years or something.
Yeah, something crazy.
I'll also add,
still on our station.
Western hasn't won a home game in Missouri Valley Conference play this year. They're 0-2. They've only tied at home.
Well, that doesn't make me feel
That
good.
doesn't make it great, but
like
they still haven't.
maybe they just can't win at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you gotta hope. But I still think they're a good enough team. They have enough talent. They have enough firepower up front.
Oh, well, they
especially.
absolutely do.
And it also does help that there are 6 out of the 8 teams that make it.
Yeah.
And with, like you said, with our firepower, like once we get in, who knows? So
Yeah, I do think that is the beauty of the format for both soccer teams, actually. As the second you turn into tournament play, it's, completely different story. Whatever ups and downs you may have had in the regular season, you can kind of look past it. And, again, we saw Evansville do that in the Valley last year. So, definitely anything can happen should they get there. I'm really caught on the Western Michigan game. I do think this is a worse Broncos team than last year, and the team was able to beat them last year too. So there's a lot going for it, but it just feels like a tall order still. I don't know. From the level of play we've seen against the better teams we've played, and maybe Western Michigan's not one of the better teams we played, I suppose. But our record against those comparable teams hasn't been stellar.
It is still a tall task, but I just think that my perspective after this loss doesn't change. It didn't change from before the loss to after the loss, is what I'm trying to say. Losing to Drake 2-0 doesn't change how I feel about the team. It all depends on this Western Michigan game.
I think my hang-up is that a lot of what we're talking about to keep the team in contention is predicated around this talented offensive tandem. And if you look at our losses, it's not just defense and goalie letting up. It's, really lack of goals.
Yeah.
You've got a 1-4 loss to Belmont. Granted, 4 goals, you're probably going to lose. So, don't put that on Painter and Terry. You also don't win a ton of games with the style of ball that the men's team plays by scoring only 1 goal. You look at a 0-1 loss to Cleveland State. Not an important game, not a conference game. Still a bit of a head-scratcher. You got the ship right again a little bit. 3-1 against Bradley, and that's fine. But then you look back at other losses, 0-3 to Bellarmine earlier in the season. Where's Trace Terry? Where's Bennett Painter in these games? And I know they can't do it alone.
Well, so that's what I was going to say is I think Trace and Bennett do their jobs very well. I think obviously you should always look for them to score, but the problem is that you don't have that third guy. They were the only two to score for more than half of the season, and then Rios got in, hit 1 goal. So they still realistically, it's really only Terry and Painter that have scored. So they're still waiting to find that third guy. I've been saying a lot that I think it could be Ryko Badurov. He's been a lot of the facilitator for them in their new formation that they're running. But I think that he could also find the back of the net. But either way, they have to find a third guy. And I just don't know who it's going to be. That's the problem.
Yeah, and it's really a tough question to be asking at this point in the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Staring down 3 games to, extend your season or end it. I don't know. It feels like a very big question mark. And, Coach Nichols, obviously spoke very highly of Ryko. It's very clear that, the team has a lot of confidence in him, in his ability to create. And so does he. We talked about this after that game last week. But, kind of a defensive error on Badurov's part, led up the Bradley goal in that first half. And then providing 2 assists on both of the assisted goals in the second half. Clear rebound, really phenomenal game for him. I don't know about the consistency of this team.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you just have to be able to somehow find the ability to be consistent, and I feel like that's going to be hard to do with only 3 games left. Like we've been mentioning, once you make it, like anything can happen, but the problem is making it to it. So if you can stay consistent for these 3 games, and I would say to even have a shot in the tournament to have a third goal scorer, rather it's Ryko or Schaefer or Hernandez, whoever wants to step up and be that third goal scorer, then that's where the question marks will start to come in.
And it's interesting, too, because, Drake being undefeated, they definitely look like one of the strong powers in the MVC. But when you look back at their schedule, they're not playing a lot of strong teams. At Tulsa, it's like maybe the most. At Marquette, they've got games against Incarnate Word, you win 2-1. Omaha, you tie 1-1. At Kansas City, 0-0. Oral Roberts, you win 1-0. These aren't, they're not like powerhouse teams by any means.
I think the best way to look at Drake, and I know we'll probably get into this more obviously when we get to women's soccer, is I feel like they're a little bit like the BGSU women's soccer team. Like they don't have any losses. They don't have. Obviously women's soccer has a loss, but they don't have any losses in conference play. But they just haven't been able to separate themselves from the other teams in the conference.
Right, and I know that you can't just do the rock, paper, scissors game. You know, some teams are going to match up differently against one opponent than another one. But, I mean, you know, there's a formula to, you know, not losing to Drake. You know, they have 6 ties, 3 in the conference. They only have 1 conference win. And so to not only lose, but to lose convincingly 2-0 is, you know, that's where it gets tough for me, you know. I don't know that I've seen something that tells me this team can win. I mean, Foster, how many games do you think that the Falcons have to win to get into the tournament of these remaining 3?
Get into the tournament, you have to win at least 2. And you have to tie the third one.
I would kind of agree with that. I think a loss kind of puts you out.
Loss puts you out. A loss gives
I don't know if that-
opponent
I think
3
you
points.
can. I think you can say lose to UIC.
If you
But
lose
if
to
you take a
Northern,
Can't
loss, you
lose to one
have
of
to
those
beat
lower
the other
ones.
2.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you could like say tie Western. You tie. You ideally have to just take points in all of your next.
That's
three.
the
And
biggest
one
thing.
of them
Points
has
are
to be
the
a win.
biggest
the
thing.
biggest thing also is you can't be giving Western Michigan points.
That's also true. That's
Yeah.
why it's
They're
so big.
Yeah.
'Cause
2 points
you're
ahead.
fighting directly with
Because
them.
UIC is far enough, you know. It's,
UIC, you know, you lose to them, whatever, but you need to take points. So
I think the biggest game left on the schedule is that Western Michigan
It
game.
is.
And you
Yeah.
need to get
you
that
have
win.
to win it.
Because it gives you more points and it
It'll
doesn't
give you
any
what
to
3
Western.
points.
Yeah, if you win
Taking
it,
over
yeah.
that.
I mean, taking a
6th
point
place
is
then.
fine, but that doesn't even take up the.
It doesn't.
sixth
No, it
spot
doesn't
yet.
move you up.
No.
It keeps you
So-
even. You win that game, you get the 3 points, then you take over 6th place.
Yeah, you just want to get it to the point where you're controlling.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
You know, and it's. Yeah.
Is it? So are we at the consensus then? I don't think it's dramatic to say. I think if they lose to Western Michigan, I think the season's pretty
Over?
much done.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree. And I think that's what I've been trying to say in the fact of like the Drake loss doesn't put me behind where I thought
Right.
our spot would be at. That's where I'm
Because you still got another fringe team there, you know,
Yes,
barely
exactly.
in position. Okay, yeah,
at.
I'm
Yes,
with
that's
that.
kind of where I'm at with that because the Western Michigan game is the most important game left on the schedule, and it was the most important game last week when we played, or not last week, when we played Drake. It's no different. It's no different on the schedule.
I mean, it has been arguably since like Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I would honestly say at that point. I think the only thing is if you didn't win against Bradley, because Bradley is objectively the worst team in the MVC, if you didn't win that game, then you were really, there was no hope, in my opinion. But now that you took that win, it's easily Western.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean, even if you just doing quick math here, even if you lose and win out, like you beat UIC somehow and you beat NIU, that puts you at 9 points on the season. Western only has to tie one of their last 2 games. They just need 1 point, and they would have the tiebreaker over you, which
Exactly.
automatically puts you out. So yeah, you have to take points in at least 2 games, and one of them has to be a win, I'd say.
And in that sense, they do play Drake and UIC, but Drake does have all those ties. It's very easy for them to even get that tie. So you really need the win. That's the easiest way to put it.
it honestly feels like more than anything, the win was really big for Drake with all those ties.
Yeah. Well, yeah, honestly, if you want to look at it that way, it was a huge win for Drake to get just a straight up win. I mean, if we tied that, I would have been so thrilled. But for them to get that win, Drake's sitting nice.
Puts them in a much more secure spot, whereas, you know, in the case of a tie, they'd be vying a lot closer to, you know, where the Western Michigan Bowling Green territory is in the conference standings. It's just interesting. It always throws me for a little bit of a loop, just the intricacies of how those points
Yeah, it's so
add up.
different than anything else you look at.
And we talked about this last year too. I just love the Valley and the way that it's like you get to talk about this every year.
Yeah.
Like like volleyball season started 2 weeks ago, we knew who the bubble 3 teams were, and it
Yeah.
didn't matter what else really happens because 3 teams are going to be the ones to pull away. I mean, we're still talking about BG being able to finish in the top 4 if they play their cards right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's what the scoring system does.
Yeah, yeah.
It allows for so much change between one game because I mean you can win one game
Literally.
and take the top at
Like-
the last possible minute.
Like the season's the right length. The teams are all competitive enough with each other. Like, it's just beautiful how it all comes together.
They do it in such a good way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, different than what other ones are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all eyes are kind of on the game in Kalamazoo at this point. The men's soccer team is next going to play, as we said, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, against the Western Michigan Broncos. So it'll be next Saturday, October 25th at 12 p.m. Exact
Noon
same time
kickoff.
as the football game.
Yeah,
just
noon
different.
kickoff.
Funny. Falcon Media will have coverage of that. As always, you can check out bgfalconmedia.com for recaps and other content related to that one. And BG Falcon Media and Falcon Media Sports Network on all your social platforms. We're nearing the end of this first hour here, so we're going to step away for a minute for promo, and when we come back, we're going to have a little bit of a argumentative, lightly spirited discussion, we'll call it. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere because we're nearing the second hour of the Zig Zone on WBGU 88.1 FM.
Don't have time to tune into a BGSU sports broadcast? Falcon Media Sports Network will have you covered with live updates of home BGSU athletic events. To follow along, head over to @BG_FMSN on Twitter X.
Looking for a BGSU Athletics talk radio show? Tune into the Zig Zone every Sunday at 4 p.m., where a panel of Falcon Media Sports Network members discuss the hottest BG sports topics, only on WBGU 88.1 FM.
Ever heard of Falcon Media Sports Network's broadcasts on Falcon Radio or WBGU 88.1 FM but don't know where to listen? Well, set down the radio, pick up your phone, and go to bgfalconmedia.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to stream Falcon Radio and WBGU 88.1 FM for all broadcasts.
Welcome back here to the Zig Zone, your home for everything going on in Falcon Athletics here on WBGU 88.1 FM. As always, I'm your host, Holden Ruck, joined once again by Ben Korak, Noah Seeley, Sean Connolly, and Foster Rostai of Falcon Media Sports Network. And I asked the guys when we went off air, the weather's very drastically changing. We're in October, Halloween's almost here. Fall's going to be, dang near gone and turned for much colder weather before you know it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? State your case.
I love fall. Fall's my favorite season, so I know a day like today makes it seem like it's like brutal, but I'd rather have days like this and then in return have like a beautiful Saturday like we did last Saturday during like the football game. Like there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was like 55, 60 degrees. It was perfect. So I'm okay with it because the like beautiful days in the fall are like top notch.
Yeah.
Nashawn, if football wasn't a thing, would that still be your answer?
Yeah, because hockey's going on.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I would say it's probably still my answer. I obviously think football adds like to the vibe of fall, but no, I think I like fall. Just like the weather is perfect. I'm a big like short and sweatshirt guy. Like that's perfect. That is my type of weather. So yeah, I think it would still be my answer.
I'll go one farther than you. Today, I love today specifically because I love the rain.
Okay, that's fair.
So like, so I'm not okay. I thought I was gonna be farther
and it
out.
hasn't rained in like 2 months.
It's been a while
like we've been in a
good
drought.
rain.
Like my front lawn in Perrysburg, which is like we get the same weather, is like brown. It's not good. It looks bad. And we just needed rain, so like I'm okay with it too. Every now and then, like rain is not bad. So
I
I'm
really
with
thought
you.
that was gonna be farther out.
No, not at all.
At our old
thing.
house, before we moved, we installed like awnings, like aluminum awnings, and I had one outside of my room. And every time it rained, it was like the aluminum awning.
dude. We have.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we put
It's
one of
just
those.
like waking up to that or falling asleep to that.
Like I say, yeah,
It's
especially like
unbelievable.
going to sleep with that type of vibe.
We
Yes,
put one
it's
of those
perfect.
in, like an aluminum metal ceiling or roofing on my house for the winter and stuff, and you hear the rain, and you can just hear the little ticks.
Like a day nap
beautiful.
with rain.
Yeah.
Exactly what I
Oh
took
my
today.
gosh.
Yes, it was perfect.
Oh my gosh.
That actually probably is the best feeling.
Yeah.
But you don't get like there is also something special about like summer storms, but you don't get like
definitely.
summer calm rains really.
You don't.
It's like a
No.
storm or it's hot.
Kind of
Yeah.
all or nothing, I feel
Which
like.
is cool. And then like in the winter you can have it can be I love the cold. But like it's gray. It looks like DeKalb,
Yeah.
Illinois.
Yeah, that's where I'm not a winter
like-
guy at all.
Catching a stray.
But Yeah, I'm with Sean here. I love the fall. Fall's the best.
I think
and it gets
it's the
beautiful here
colors
in the
as
next-
well.
Beautiful,
Yes.
Midwest falls are like top notch.
and
Like
then
you can't get better than a Midwest fall.
I'm actually in agreement. I really thought there would be a little more disagreement on this, but my only caveat is when you get kind of acclimated. It's hitting like 44 overnight. If you're outside with a pet or whatever, doing the trash, etc. In the evening, it's like okay, it's a little chilly. First thing in the morning, it's kind of chilly. These middays, you're having groggy. It's like 60 and windy and rainy, especially around here. And then when you get that sudden day where it's like 79 again, you get caught lacking.
Yeah.
That
You step outside in a
that's tough.
sweatshirt and sweatpants.
It's like, whoa, this is
80
hard.
degrees.
Yeah, those do kind of suck.
Yeah, I will say this.
The yesterday was hot.
Yeah.
Yesterday was hot. Yeah.
it started.
And especially for a noon kickoff, like you go out at 9 a.m. and it's like 60, and it's
and
like
it's
okay, cool.
You're in sweatshirt, and it's like,
And then
now I have
like
to
you
lug
play
this
2
around.
games of cornhole and you're sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay. What a-
No, hold on.
much were
Cornhole
you
was too much for you sweating some cornhole.
Yeah, how much were you sweating after
Dude.
these games?
Bringing up a sweat.
How competitive were these games of
Dude.
cornhole?
Yeah, I
man?
did
Dude.
some cardio
Listen,
this week, man.
dude.
I played cornhole.
Come on now. You play to
Cornhole
win.
gets like
you play to win.
intense.
Hey,
Do you guys
that's
ever
fair.
see cornhole on like ESPN?
Oh,
like
I have.
Like
Yes.
it's like
Dude, it's
intense.
electric,
Like the
dude.
actual.
It's pretty
Cornhole on
cool,
the
yeah.
Ojo.
It's awesome to watch.
And of
It's
course, like
literally,
I'm sitting on the couch with like a bag of chips. Like I can do that.
Yeah,
like I'm better than that
I
guy.
did that on the weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, he airmailed it. No
Exactly,
way.
yeah.
What's the clip of the bowling dude that's like,
Who do you think
you
you
are?
Yeah, exactly.
That's me, like when I hit the board once.
Yeah.
It's like,
Dude, he dropped a banger when he retired too. Actually, he was like, "Love me or hate
Hey,
me,
you
watch.
watched.
That's
Yeah.
all you
No,
can do."
that guy is like a
that's-
quote machine.
also crazy for bowling, but
Exactly,
also
yeah.
like,
Like,
reasonable.
I love that he's a
One of
bowler.
one,
Yeah.
It's just too much aura.
Yeah.
Imagine having him in an actual like big sport, and he could just drop those one-liners
Oh my
all the
gosh.
time. That'd be so
Quarterback?
good. Yeah,
Jalen
quarterback.
Hurts
Throw
could
him
never-
that quarterback.
After
Yeah.
a Super Bowl win,
Jameis
quarterback
Winston,
drops
but
that
not
line.
funny. It's just like actually cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston, if he was good.
Not Jameis Winston catching strays.
Jameis Winston catching a straight.
Did
might-
you-
Do Browns fans
Did-
want
did
Jameis
you
Winston?
guys-
back?
Don't even
ever-
start it because I wore a Jameis Winston jersey earlier while I was watching the game.
So
I have a Jameis Winston.
It's funny
Brown
you
jersey.
bring up Jameis Winston and Bowling Green, where it's like he was on a podcast. Part of my take, I listened to it, and I think it was when he was talking about getting recruited. And Scott Leffler caught a massive stray one episode. This was like a year and a half ago.
I know where you're going.
And he was talking about getting recruited, and he was like, yeah, like my options were like Florida, Florida State, just like SEC, like southern teams. He was like, so he also played baseball. Remember that he played baseball at Florida State. He was like at like some camp at Florida. Like Florida, I'm sure was probably high on his list. Scott Leffler literally told him, because he was, I think, the OC or one of the coaches at, maybe quarterback coach at Florida, and was like, you can't play football or baseball, or you have to pick one. You can't come here and play both. And so then he put Florida off the list of like wanting to go there, and it's like that was like Scott Leffler like was the reason, and he caught a stray. I literally was like walking to class, and all I heard was Scott Leffler out of Jameis Winston's mouth. I was like, no way, this is crazy.
Always finds a way to relate back.
Yeah, I know, it's
Always.
crazy.
Green
It's
at
so
the center of
funny.
Everything as always.
Wasn't he like a dog baseball player?
Yeah,
Like,
He was good. Yeah,
insane?
I think he was pretty
Like,
Like,
good.
maybe not Golden Spikes, but
I think
won
he got
something.
drafted
He did. I think he did.
by like
for
the
sure.
Athletics or something, or maybe was that Kyler Murray?
Kyler
I feel
Murray
like
also
everybody
did,
gets
but I
drafted
thought
by the
Jameis
NFL.
did as well.
All the football players. I don't know.
Yeah,
Every
no, I
quarterback.
just
In my head, that's true.
yeah. No, it's pretty funny when I was, like I said,
Yeah.
it's just
Texas
funny.
Rangers in the 15th round.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there
There
it
you
is.
go.
The Athletics is either Russ or Kyler. I don't remember.
No, it's
which one.
Kyler,
Is
I
it Kyler?
believe.
Okay.
I feel like
The
that's
Athletics
kind
was Kyler Murray, but
Yes.
maybe he should have chose the baseball.
Russ-
Yeah, that one.
because
Russ was the Rockies, wasn't it?
Russ was the
Yeah,
the
it was.
Yankees.
It was.
He might
No,
have
it was
been
the
drafted by
Rockies. It
and
was the
played for the
Rockies.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe
he
it was
played in a
that.
preseason game with
Maybe
the
it was
Yankees.
that.
I do remember that.
It's kind of
But-
funny. Like I take for granted, because it's like a smaller town as far as college towns go, smaller market. Like still like a D1 school, and like
Yeah.
you're gonna have those links. And
Yeah.
I think Eddie George getting hired kind of helped people remember that. Oh yeah, like this is pretty high profile actually. But
And
I remember that I was shocked. The Jameis Winston Scott Leffler clip was that totally
Yeah. I think we talked
Caught me
about
by
that last
surprise.
year, like
Yeah.
how unbelievable
Probably.
that is.
it's funny.
Yeah.
unbelievable, or just like catching you.
No,
off
it's
guard.
completely believable,
Right.
but like, yeah,
It's just when it
believable.
happens to somebody that like quote unquote like we don't know Leffler,
Yeah.
but like we encountered Leffler like
Yes.
Yeah.
a good amount.
That is definitely something.
So
to
it's just
do.
like
Oh, yeah.
like crazy that like he was
Yeah.
the reason he didn't go. I don't know if he was picking Florida over Florida
Yeah,
State,
exactly.
but like
Yeah.
when you told him, hey, you can't play both, it's like, all right, I'm not going to come
Cross-
here anyway.
cross it off the
yeah,
list,
exactly.
yeah.
So
Done.
it just is pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap up that side conversation. That might be if you hadn't tied it back in with Scott Leffler, that might have been like the farthest off base. Like, there's no reason we should have gone from the fall and overcast weather to Jameis Winston.
I think it still
talking
might have
about
been the
Scott
farthest,
Leffler.
but that was very worth it.
I think so, but I really like the full circle with the Scott
It was
Leffler
a great
moment.
full circle moment.
I don't even know how Jameis Winston got like brought up.
I think I brought him up for
I think
some
he
reason
brought
or
him up.
another. Or
Oh, it was
It
the
was
quote
'cause
machine, the
of
people.
quote-
Yes. But how did we get on that?
The
What are
bowler.
we
The
talking
bowler.
about?
Who do you think you are? I
We were
am.
talking about cornhole. There it is.
From the fall.
Worked our way
Okay,
back.
there's
There it is.
the separation.
There's our
It makes
line.
so much sense when you look at it that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
the way we
Yeah,
figured it
cornhole
out.
Jameis
Easy.
Winston couldn't be clearer.
Yeah.
We're going to step away for station identification, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to get into the rest of the action that's happened in the past week, talking about volleyball, the women's soccer team, and hockey. Maybe the one bright spot, kind of, this last week. We'll talk about it more in a minute. Don't go anywhere. You're still listening to the Zig Zone here on WBGU 88.1 FM.
You are listening to Falcon Media Sports Network coverage on WBGU 88.1 FM in Bowling Green, Ohio.
We're back here on the Zig Zone, and without further ado, we're going to start talking about the volleyball team, who took a loss, but a reasonable
Two
one.
losses.
Two losses, a serious
back-to-back.
loss, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, like, one, I wasn't able to be there. For me, looking over the recap, you never want to see a sweep, but not an unreasonable one. Ben, talk to me more about it.
Yeah. They lost a pretty good match to Ball State, and then got pretty smacked by Ball State in the second game. Not too much has changed on the outlook of the team, especially because you saw the reappearance of Lauren Hovey. She played her first MAC games of the year. First game she played in 8 in a row, and 9 out of her last 10 was against Ball State in the first game in the Stroh Center. So it was nice to see her back. You also got to remember that Amanda Otten is still out. They're still confident that they're going to see her play again before the end of the season. So at least like some sweat is dissipated there. But so Lauren Hovey didn't get all the swings that she possibly could, because she was also playing setter with the second setter on the roster, Anna Shitek. So she wasn't able to do as much offensively, mostly because of that. I think the first game was very good. Ball State's the best offense in the Mid-American Conference, and Bowling Green had a better offense. They controlled the game throughout the entire match. They made Ball State beat them in ways that Ball State struggled in, which mainly is blocking and serving, which Ball State's one of the mid-tier serving teams in the MAC, and one of the worst blocking teams in the MAC, and they led BG in both of those categories on the Thursday game. It came down to just a couple of points and a couple of errors from the Falcons, but it was a very good match for them. And the second one, that was probably the worst volleyball game they played on the year so far. Maybe a little bit hungover from playing a very good match the match previous, but there was not a lot good, if anything good, to come out of the second match that they played against Ball State. And now they look forward into Western Michigan, who's still not as good as historically, but still a very good team, and still a team that can beat you. And that's who they go to this week in Kalamazoo.
And my kind of takeaway from the last 2 weeks, you lose both of them against Ball State, but you win twice against NIU. You're not particularly sweating the remainder of the schedule.
No, I mean, as soon as Amanda Otten went out, the regular season MAC championship was out the window, I think. You're just, for any team, you lose your setter, or if you have a two-setter system, one of your two, you're in pretty solid trouble. So, I think nothing's really changed. I think now it's to the point that you're I would liken it a lot to where Western Michigan was last season, and it's very similar actually, because Western Michigan came to the Stroh Center, lost both games, 5-set reverse sweep for BG, and then BG trounced them in the second game, and then Western Michigan came out in the tournament and beat BG in the semifinal and advanced and ended up winning the whole MAC tournament. I think BG's in a similar situation, that they're just going to lose at home to Ball State, and then if they meet Ball State in the tournament, they will be able to scrape away a win and win the MAC tournament as well. So nothing's really changed in my mind. the regular season's going to go to Ball State. They're 8-0, 9-0, I believe now, which, they're a very good team. Carson Tyler's an unbelievable player. Yeah, they're 9-0, 13-8 overall. Carson Tyler's an unbelievable player. Toledo can chase them, but they have 2 losses, and Ball State's at an easier part of their schedule because they've already played Toledo, Western Michigan, and Bowling Green, who are the other bubble teams. They play Ohio, Miami, Kent State, Eastern, and Central Michigan, who are all bottom 6 teams. So they're pretty much home free. BG's probably going to finish the 3rd, 4th, 5th seed, something like that. And they'll make the tournament, and that's all that they have to do because this team is in my mind, the most talented team in the MAC.
Don't they host too?
They do host.
Okay.
It is at home, so they don't have to go on the road.
Didn't that change?
Yeah, so whoever wins the MAC regular season,
that's benefit. Like, that helps a lot.
Yeah, it does, especially this year.
Mm-hmm.
But Ball State will host it next year if they win the Mid-American Conference regular season, which makes it a lot better for planning because at least now, Ball State knows they're coming to BG.
Yeah.
So it helps everybody. It was kind of stupid the way that they had it before. Too quick of a turnaround. Teams couldn't get themselves set. Like Muncie, Indiana probably does not have that many places to put 6 teams that are coming into hotel situations. Probably a nightmare. So
yeah, I was about to say, taking it a little bit off of sports, I feel like it actually helps everything in the
whole
around the whole college in general, knowing a year out.
It just happened to benefit BG this year.
Yeah,
but,
that is true. This year
it's helping Ball State next year, and it puts a little bit less pressure on winning the regular season immediately that year, but also
what was the old format?
It's better,
if you don't mind me asking.
BG, last year, BG won the regular season, so they hosted.
And it was that quick of a turnaround.
You had a bye week, and then it was the tournament.
Oh, wow.
So you had to make all the preparations. The director of ops were probably
they
scrambling
to get all
2 a.m. every day trying to figure out.
And that's what I mean. Take it away from
hotels.
sports. Just look at the college town in general.
Exactly.
Imagine having to figure out how to make that work.
And Bowling, I know it's not like it's always at Bowling Green, but it's a perfect Bowling Green's a perfect spot to have.
And I think Del Piombo said one year they went to Muncie because Muncie was hosting the tournament at Ball State, and Ball State was actually putting people in dorms. They were putting teams.
That's
in
crazy
because there wasn't enough hotel space.
That's wild.
That just can't.
That can't happen.
Maybe that'll happen anyway. Maybe that's just how Muncie is, but at least you can plan for that.
Yeah.
You get a year
you can make a plan for that as soon as you win the regular season.
Yeah.
So.
And the fact that it's in advance like that too.
Yeah.
Just I really can't see a downside.
I doubt they change this for a long time.
No, in
my opinion.
I don't see a reason they would ever change it.
Yeah, this should
unless they went to a neutral site.
Yeah, that would be the only way.
I don't think you should do that because you have to have a fan base present.
And not only that, but from a marketing standpoint, Bowling Green volleyball, very upward trajectory. That attendance record against it was Ohio State last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a MAC.
For the MAC, yeah.
Knowing your site in advance, couldn't be better for trying to promote it too.
Yeah, if you take it away from just sports, so much more.
Yeah, it's probably the best place to play. And taking away the Bowling Green element, just having.
I was only even saying on a college to college, getting their home fans. But you're right for the actual tournament too.
Yeah.
Especially knowing it's going to be in BG.
It's a small enough venue. It's got Terraflex, which is a big thing for volleyball players and having NCAA won't even let you host a game unless you have Terraflex now, I believe.
Wow.
So there's not too much negative about it. It's good that they have it this year because they're going to need. All the help they can because they don't. BG doesn't know when Amanda Otten's going to be back. She might be back, for the MAC tournament. She might be back a week before the MAC tournament. Who knows? So they've just said that they're confident she's going to be back this season. Don't know when that's going to be. They have 4 series left, 4 weekend series, and the midweek game against Toledo, and then you're into November 21st in the MAC tournament in the Stroh Center. So,
I guess at the end of the day, if you're the Falcons, you're going to take what you can get regarding having Otten able to play. But what's your outlook this week for Western Michigan? It's not the team that we've seen in previous years. It's on the road. You still don't have Otten. What are you expecting to see here, Ben?
Yeah, I think Western Michigan's good. I'd say they're the 4th of the top 4 teams, which is Ball State, Toledo, Bowling Green, and Western Michigan. I think they're the 4th best. Colleen Munson, always head coach of Western Michigan, always seems to do something. She has historically. She's a great coach. And she's pulled Leah Richmond, who's their setter. Didn't set it all last year. If anybody remembers Logan Case, she played for 5 years at Western Michigan, was the best setter in the NCAA 1 year. She was definitely the best setter in the MAC, pure setter for pretty much all 5 years that she was with Western Michigan. And they turned around, and now they have the assist leader in the MAC currently with Leah Richmond, who's in her first season setting with Western Michigan. So they're good. They're deadly. They have some really nice pieces. Their offense is not the same as it was last year, and they're quite a bit younger. So in the next couple of years, they'll be real good. I think BG should handle them. I think they should at least win one. If not, they should probably win two. It is in Kalamazoo, which is a pretty tough place to play. They show out for their volleyball team, and Colleen Munson, she knows Del Piombo. She knows how Bowling Green likes to play. So this is back-to-back weeks of classic matchups between. Toledo's our rival. I would argue for volleyball, Ball State and Western Michigan are more meaningful on a year in year out basis, just because of how much like the MAC championships all run through Ball State and Western Michigan over the last 10 years. So this is big. They need to take 2 wins. If they take 2 wins, I don't think they win. I don't think they lose another game the rest of the season, probably, unless some things change. This is probably the toughest test that they'll have. Western Michigan on the 24th, 25th, and then Toledo on the 28th on a Tuesday. That's the toughest 3-game stretch of the rest of the season. And then they should be in pretty good shape for the MAC tournament.
Yeah. Western Michigan making it tough for multiple BGSU teams.
Right?
What else is new, right?
Yeah, seriously.
I feel like
can't stand them.
Outside of Toledo, I don't really think there are strong rivalries a lot in the MAC outside of like the ones we know, the Battle of the Bricks, the Battle of I-75. Yeah. I know Bowling Green and Kent State have some history, but that's not. But I feel like Western Michigan over the last, probably 10-ish years in a lot of ways has become kind of a rival now. Just being successful on the football field. I mean, obviously the men's soccer runs.
Well,
women's soccer too. Yeah. Volleyball.
It's just across all sports. Like I'd say Bowling Green and Western Michigan are the two that compete most heavily across every sport.
Across every sport, because I think every other program in the MAC is
they have a couple of niche ones that they're really good at, but they don't.
Like Toledo's good at football, and what are they like?
Their men's basketball team probably is going to be really good this year.
Volleyball's having like an abnormal year. They were fine the last couple of years. Like they're not like perennially competing, whereas like Western Michigan's always competing in almost every sport.
Very well rounded.
And that's kind of why
winning a national championship, by the way.
Yeah, and winning hockey.
National championship.
You kind of take hockey away from that because they're not in the MAC.
Right.
Like they don't directly play BG, but also their athletic budget is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I think they have the highest in the MAC currently, and by like a wide margin. I don't know for sure. I don't know the exact numbers, but Western Michigan's the bane of any Falcon Media Sports Network member, of any BG sports fan, of volleyball and men's soccer specifically, women's soccer as well, and I think that just makes it sweeter when you get wins.
Yeah. Now, is that, I know you said what they can do. What if you have to say like this is going to happen?
Prediction?
You think, yeah.
I think they win both in 5 sets, and that's what I'll say. I still don't think Amanda Otten's coming back, but I think Avery Hobson's going to be a big piece during those games on the left side for them. I think Hovey's going to do what Hovey's going to do. She's going to set, so it's going to take away some swings. She's probably going to be the MVP just because she's doing both. I think she's going to get her first triple-double since 2023 as well, because she's going to get 10-plus assists. She's going to get 10-plus kills, and she's a great defensive player as well. She'll probably get 10-plus digs.
I like that prediction.
But they're going to be tight. They're going to be good matches, and Andrew Smith will have the call on WBGU 88.1 FM. I think for the Friday, and then for the Saturday, I forget what stations they're going to be on, but either WBGU or Falcon Radio.
As always, tune in to our socials at BG_FMSN for updates regarding our broadcasts, whether they be on another station or here on WBGU 88.1 FM. And as always, if you can't tune in for the broadcasts, you can not only listen to the rebroadcasts on the BG Falcon Media YouTube page, but you can also check out our other written content as well as photos and video highlights from the action on BGFalconMedia.com. it's going to wrap it up for us on the volleyball. As we said, they'll take on Western Michigan in a pretty, I would say at this point, pretty highly anticipated series here. Definitely the most exciting one remaining in this regular season. So
Definitely.
we're going to move on from that, and we're going to talk a little bit about the women's soccer team. And I just came from Cochran Stadium, actually. A 13-game unbeaten streak is what the women's soccer team carried into a Sunday afternoon matchup against Ball State. Pretty big MAC tournament implications on the line here. Chris Fox in his second year, really impressive having the program record for unbeaten streak. At some point in time, I think it's probably frustrating to some fans not seeing more of those turn into wins. And ultimately what you come out with here is 13 games and Ball State able to end that streak today with a 1-0 victory over the Falcons. Some context from coming straight from there, one goal, not a wide margin. And I think especially relevant in looking at that is the goal scored was a very, kind of lucky goal, if I'm calling a spade a spade.
Taylor Green tripped.
Taylor Green made her first, but who, by the way, I'll get into that more, but had a really, really nice game, honestly, but slipped on really, really wet grass. It was very wet and muddy at Cochran today. Slipped on some grass, and Addie Chester, Ball State's ace, the current MAC leader in goals, got one past Peyton O'Malley, and that was the only score of the day, and that was the only opportunity for either team that was remotely that open of a one-on-one between a striker and a goalkeeper. So, I don't know how much you guys looked into it, but I got to say, personally, I don't take much negative out of it. Sucks to see the streak end. Makes things a little more complicated for the MAC tournament. Yeah. But, I think they played at a really high level today.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, it does have a little bit of implication. Like, the win would have been nice, seeing as we don't have as many wins as we do ties. We have a ton of ties. And the thing is, the story of the season is we keep all the matches close. There's not been one that's been out of reach either time, unless it's us reaching out. We had a 4-0 victory at one point. But we just always keep them close. So, I'm not afraid of it going into the rest of the season. How many matches is there left?
They've got 3 matches left for the regular season. They're going to be at Buffalo this upcoming Thursday, the 23rd. Next Sunday, 1 p.m., they'll be hosting Akron for their home finale, which is also going to be senior day for the Falcons. And then their regular season finale is going to be at UMass on Wednesday, October 29th. A Wednesday 1 p.m. game is another odd one. As we're talking about weird game times.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
It's an odd one, but definitely not the end of the line for them losing today at all. But makes things a little bit more complicated. You're looking at that UMass team currently entering today. Ball State was in 4th in the MAC, and Bowling Green was in 6th. UMass was in 7th. With the loss, Ball State's going to kind of bolster. Bowling Green not really moving anywhere. So that UMass game could end up having really, really big implications. It could be the difference between, being on the outside looking in and that final tournament spot.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think one of the weird things that does come with the points is that you have a team like Bowling Green that now only has its first loss in conference play, but they're not like a guaranteed lock for the tournament just because they have so many ties. And it's so interesting.
I just think this was I think you can say easily that they weren't expecting, or we could expect them not to definitely come away with a win here today.
Oh, no.
This is definitely a game that they could lose, but this is kind of a situation where they were flirting the whole time with taking losses, and now you finally have, and then it's the reality of okay, well, we tied all these games, that's great, but now we lost. We only have 3 wins. The 14 points is only 1 ahead of Eastern Michigan, only 3 ahead of UMass, who you play. So if you just lay an egg against UMass, you're in huge amounts of trouble.
Yeah.
UMass isn't a bad team either. Buffalo's probably going to hand you a loss, I would imagine. They're 7-2. They're a real good team. So you're talking not adding any points there, where Eastern Michigan and UMass might be able to. I feel more confident, honestly, in the men's soccer situation. Not saying that they're a better team. I just feel more confident in where they sit in the MVC, just by nature of the MVC, than I do.
Yeah, because there's only 8 teams, 6 of them in. Yeah. It is a little bit different. And I think,
for sure,
obviously, a tie is better than a loss, but in the same sense,
Yeah,
it doesn't help them in any way of like pushing them to be better. If that makes any sense.
No, that's true. Yeah, you can like kind of settle down for like ties is good. Like you didn't lose, but also
But you
like
didn't
you left 2 points on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, which in this case is going to make a huge difference come to the end, depending on how the outcomes
And
are.
especially not to mention if you like heartbreakingly miss the tournament by 1 point, like how many of those games did you like
Could you
miss
have
one
won?
shot?
Yeah.
Well,
that would have been a 2-point decision, and you would have been in.
I'm also pretty sure, I think we did the math on this one day in the Convergence Lab, like we could have tied out like a couple more of those matches and not gotten a win, and we still would have not made the tournament, which would have been insane to me.
Yeah.
Like to think about that, we would have not lost a single game in conference play and still wouldn't have made the tournament. So it's like, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a realm where you tie out and still miss the tournament.
Yeah, there still is.
Because
exactly.
Eastern Michigan can win their other two, and
Exactly, and it's just so weird to me that like that is the possibility. But they're keeping all the matches close. I mean, obviously they only have 2 losses on the season, and they've both been by 1 goal.
Yeah, and one of them's to a Big Ten opponent.
Yeah, so like you can't really knock that one.
Well, and this is also what we can attribute to like Chris Fox and the style of play that he brings is like this is going to happen. And it's probably going to happen more years than it doesn't, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
But you also feel confident going into Buffalo, Akron, and UMass that they're going to play the way that they play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to get off their game plan on a day-to-day.
And it's really hard to get off your game plan as a defensive team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And I think their offense has come forward. Their striking's been better as the season's progressed, which I think is a good thing for sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, you just have to make it, because if you keep it 0-0 with any of the top teams, like you could just get lucky and win.
Yeah,
and that's all
the
you
thing.
need.
And here's what I think really inspires a lot of hope, and where I disagree on the comparison between the men's and women's like remaining schedule and the optimism looking in, because there are a lot more bubble teams in the MAC than the MVC. Don't get me wrong.
True.
If you go from Northern Illinois, who's the 10th team, they have 8 conference points. Ohio has 10, Massachusetts has 11, Eastern has 13, Bowling Green's sitting in the last tournament spot right now at 14. So I mean, that's arguably the bubble. Bowling Green's the only one of those teams who has 3 games left, which is weird.
Yeah.
But a lot of them
Yeah,
only
Eastern's
have 2.
only got 2.
Eastern's only got 2. UMass only has 2, one of which is BG. And so my big takeaway, in my opinion, is you've got one more home game. It's senior day, and it's against Akron, who's easily the worst team remaining on your schedule, second worst in the MAC. They have 1 MAC win. You beat Akron, I think you're sitting all right if you can get a result. Because with only 2 games left, I think drawing UMass is probably ideal. I don't know if you can expect to beat them.
Yeah.
You're not winning a lot of games, and like we said, that tournament, you're going to be kind of looking to just hang around and see what happens.
I would label Akron not just a must win, but a must. Like you must stomp on them. Like you got to win by multiple scores. I'd say, because you have to bring enough confidence into UMass to say like we can. Not to say that they wouldn't have that already, but to bring some arrogance into UMass,
The extra momentum.
to go into Amherst and like that's what you're going to need to be able to beat them. UMass isn't bad. That's a team that's going to be in the bubble most likely with you,
And
unless they collapse.
The nice thing is entering today, Massachusetts was in 7th, directly behind the Falcons. Eastern Michigan has now springboarded them after today's results because UMass lost 1-0 to Toledo, who's not a good team in this conference.
Yeah, sure.
So
but they did have back-to-back ties to Miami and Eastern, who are pretty Eastern's
good teams.
solid, Miami's good.
Yeah. The underlying point being, I think you get a win against, like, you should beat Akron. You get another result. I think that 4 points looks pretty good. And that's basically what Chris Fox said after the game today. So we're going to play a little soundbite of Coach Fox post-game following their 1-0 loss to Ball State earlier.
Is just, sometimes it's unjust. Whatever the case today, it felt like you were all over them in the second half, kind of did everything but get the equalizer. But, they got a goal when basically a wet field, somebody slips and falls, and you come away with a setback today.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think we've been talking about complete 90-minute performances throughout the whole season. I think that was a complete performance from us today. I was happy from minute 1 to minute 90 in terms of executing a game plan, looking like us, looking how we want to play, unpredictable rotation, quality in possession, variety of chances, carving through them. I think our performance is fantastic, and outside of a poor surface and a poor field, you maybe it's a tie, right? But I felt like we did enough to win the game today. I think we created quality chances. We played really, really well, and it's I think that's the difficulty with our sport, right? You can have performances like NIU. I felt we won on Thursday night. I thought we were okay at best, but you come away with a win. Today, I thought we were excellent. We come away with a loss. It's a difficult one to take. I know that it's hurting for sure. The goals are hurt. When you feel like you've done everything right and the result doesn't go the way you want it, it's not easy to take.
I think there's a lot of optimism for the soccer team to have coming out of that one. Only their second loss on the entire year. Your other one was a 1-0 loss against Illinois earlier in the year, a Big Ten opponent. As we've talked about, good teams have to overcome adversity, and I don't even know that there's that much adversity, truly, just because it's really not that bad of a loss. I mean, if you look at the on-field performance, there are some hiccups, some things that the team would definitely like to clean up. But, I think Coach Fox very appropriately hit the nail on the head there. You're not...
I would, I think there's a distinction between losing and being beaten. I think they were just beaten. And they played well. They just didn't come up with it today. And I think they were due for that eventually. And I think it's just lucky it came after they reached the 13-game mark that they were able to set the record and not tie it or miss it by a bit. But I thought there was a lot of good things to see. I thought they generated their offense well, which they've done better as the season has gone along. It's nice to see Taylor Green out there, although some external factors kind of hindered what we're going to say about her performance, as it kind of resulted in a goal. But it wasn't any fault to her. It's probably more likely just it was a rainy day and it didn't go the way of BG, and probably could have very easily been a point in a tie against a very good team.
I do think that is actually maybe my most important takeaway from today. You saw the usual things that you were going to see. There were some chances. I believe the final stat was that Bowling Green actually outshot
that seems
Ball
right.
State 16-4.
Yeah, based on what I watched, that's not surprising.
6 shots on goal.
6 shots on goal.
Green. 4 shots, 2 on goal for Ball State. No, 16 shots. I forgot you turn us off when you do those new things. 16 shots, 6 on goal for Bowling Green, 4 with 2 on goal for Ball State.
I mean, how many times have we really been able to say that about Chris Fox's team?
Yeah.
That is true.
And no fault to Chris Fox or anything. That's just the style doesn't, that's not a shot-burning style. And yet 16's a lot. 16's a lot.
Yeah, and I think, too, I loved seeing that stat even in the loss, because it tells you that they're not just, playing around with the ball and stalling time and hoping for, a lapse. I mean, they're really taking their time and lining up really thought out.
And they had some pretty good chances at the end there, too.
Especially at the end, they had some great chances, a lot of good second, third, even fourth attempts in the box in, I think, the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, when they started to push, it was, when it gets down to there, when the ball's ricocheting around, it's more luck than anything. In hockey and basketball and
you had
soccer,
people there at the right time. I also do want to say credit to Kate Palante, Ball State's goalkeeper, had a very, very good game today. She was just, physically.
She stopped all 16.
If she had to, roll over her teammate and a Falcon to get the save, she was doing it. A lot of those higher looks that came from, the back line trying to put the ball up to give a chance for the Falcons, those air balls coming down. She caught those no problem, and very patient, kind of taking her time before, booting the ball back over to the other side. And just very, very consistent performance from her. Definitely, I think a team that's going to be maybe more dangerous than they probably got credit for in the MAC tournament, as they look pretty poised now, currently in that third seed. But my most important takeaway about the Falcons is there's so much value in the return of Taylor Green as, a starting defender, as a captain and leader on that team, and just the creativity and vision that she plays with from that back line, especially when the Falcons are going more on the offensive and they're starting to push up to the midfield. The amount of, times you see her, it almost reminds me of watching a point guard. kind of watching how the flow of the other players goes, and looking for like the lanes and areas where then the mids and the forwards can start creating chances. I mean,
yeah, it's just weird to say that on a game that they lost, but you definitely like. She's a player that you definitely have to watch to understand how much value she adds.
She
because
came
she's,
in
like in soccer, you don't look at the box score for that much, but even just like you got to focus on her for a minute of watching the game and just see how much she contributes.
She came in the 21st minute. Not super long after that, is when the actual goal was scored by, again, the Max leading scorer, too. Addie Chester isn't a slouch by any means, so it's hard to be, truly downtrodden by that.
And a slip and fall could have happened by anybody.
Could have happened by anybody. It was at 33 minutes, and Taylor Green came on at like 21, 23-ish. So, about 10 minutes of play, first 10 minutes in, a long time. And that wasn't the only time that Taylor Green ended up on the ground, too. Between the wetness and just her playing physically against Ball State strikers, I mean, she was really just putting it all out there, coming off of a broken collarbone, which is just, really gutsy. And I think the kind of play that lights a fire under your teammates, as a captain on that team. So I think they're going to be all right. And I think taking your first loss since August 19th is not a bad thing for a team with, conference championship goals.
And a well-played loss to a very good team.
The other thing that I think is interesting to talk about is that for the women's team, they kind of pride themselves on their defense, and that's what's going to, when they get into the tournament, that's what's going to keep them going, if they can get a 1-0 win. But if you look towards the men's side, they need to get those goals from Terry and from Painter. And I think it's really weird looking at the differences between the two. It's just completely different.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You look at some universities, I'm sure that you'll see, the team on the men's and women's side play more similar styles somewhere, but not here really. And that
not
really
at all. It's just interesting to think about. Not even in the fact of different between schools, but just different. It's just it's weird.
Yeah, definitely
random point,
something that I really appreciate, and especially more the more I've covered, any of those teams, it's just noticing those nuances that I think can fly under the radar a little bit. But Bowling Green will look to get back on track from I wouldn't even say on track, because I think they played a good game. But their next chance to get another win, get some points, and hopefully secure their spot in the Mid-American Conference Tournament will be in Buffalo this Thursday, kicking off at 6 p.m. And one kind of last thought I have on it, in post-game, I asked Chris Fox, to me, the margins for error in the MAC are a little bit thin. You can be doing great things, tying, which I don't really think is an error at all. And, you said it earlier, they could have tied out from a couple games ago and missed the tournament. So, I think that's an incredibly thin margin for error, to take a loss. And I really liked his response because, he said, I don't think the margins are that thin at all, which, caught me off guard for a minute. But then he elaborated, he's like, I think we need to take, maybe 4 points and, we're fine. And I really like that point because, they're not really a team that's been making a lot of errors. Again, genuinely, I don't think you run that 5 more times, Taylor Green maybe doesn't slip in that spot. You know what I mean? Just total... I really do think the field conditions, it was really rainy out there today. I think Cochran was kind of just a mess. There was a lot of slipping and sliding. I don't think you can attribute that to any play. I
100% agree with you on the fact that they don't have that many errors. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is they're not doing enough offensively. So it's not that they're making an error, it's that they're not doing enough to make the other team to make an error. I feel like that's the best way to explain
it. And I do think that is probably that's how you end up with a team that's getting a lot of ties.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Close wins. Obviously the 2 losses all, both just 1-0. But you're right. I think they're just. I think today was optimism inspiring for this team. One, because they were already on track to probably make a MAC tournament appearance. I think they can with this schedule, and just the sheer volume of shots they got up. At some point, those are going to go your way.
Definitely.
You played a really good goalkeeper today. She just outright had a really good game.
And the other thing is having the loss now rather than against Akron for some reason. Having that loss and still having a couple games in between is nice. So because the loss was going to happen.
You can right the ship before the MAC tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah, which, by the way, really cool. I think Lucas Kleinmeyer told me that it's the first time they've held the MAC tournament at historic Crew Stadium in Columbus.
It is.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I think that's
really,
awesome.
really sick.
I am on record as being more of like a, I like home field advantage. I'm okay with this one. I don't know why, but I
think in the sense of soccer-wise, it makes a lot of sense to do it there, like for the sport and like the history of the Columbus Crew Stadium.
Yeah.
That in itself.
I think that's really cool, though. But women's soccer will finish out the season with games at Buffalo, home on senior night against Akron, and at Massachusetts in Amherst. BG Falcon Media and Falcon Media Sports Network will have coverage of all of those in some form or another. Expect a call for that Akron home finale as well. Tune into bgfalconmedia.com as well as BG Falcon Media and Falcon Media Sports Network on all your social platforms to keep engaged with all the content going out regarding the women's soccer team as they make their push towards a MAC tournament berth. Last and certainly not least, we got to take it over to the ice. Benjamin, bit of hockey action in the CCHA. Take me through it.
Yeah, final exhibition and kind of preseason game before you get into conference play this week against Windsor, a 6-3 win. It is actually the first time this season that you can say that they came away with a win, although it's not reflected on their record, as they're still 0-2 with 2 losses to Niagara, who's actually a pretty solid team. But there was a lot of good things to see from the team this weekend. A lot of nice scoring, a lot of shots. They won face-offs well. They played a strong defense. I think there was a couple of quotes from the press conference that they finally found their way playing with each other. Passes connected a lot more, especially deeper. There was a lot of breakaways, some that they converted on, some that they didn't. Their penalty kill was still very good, although they gave up a power play goal. It was still a very nice penalty kill on the defensive end. I thought it was a very nice coming together game. Windsor's not the best opponent, but they're a veteran group. They have a lot of older guys, so it was nice for a team with a lot of younger guys to be able to come out and take a decisive victory, and one that they felt like they held control of the game for the majority of the time. Willie was pleased with it. The players were pleased with it. A lot of different guys were very happy with the performance. A lot of different guys scored points and assists as well. So just all around very good.
We've got some audio here from Willie's press conference about the exhibition game. So without further ado, we're going to tune into that.
Coach, have to start with the fan support because it seemed like a regular season game, and I know thought process wise, you guys are in that mindset too. But the crowd kind of brought it too tonight, didn't they?
Crowd was great. Yeah, it was. I didn't know what to expect till I walked out right before the anthem, right off it. So it definitely. I know our guys appreciate it, especially when, as you said, you look at an exhibition game. A lot of times it's thin, on that part, which I get, but it was awesome. They were loud, and what we always say, it doesn't take many in there to make that a tough place to play, off it. And when we scored our first goal, you can definitely, feel the excitement, the passion from the fans, and it was nice to see our guys pull out a win and deliver a win for those that came tonight.
Did you see that energy uptick that you were hoping to see from this group coming from last weekend to tonight?
Yeah, and again, I think what's really important it's easy for someone to say because you win, but as I said to our guys before the game, I really don't care if we win right now. What I care about is details and habits. Obviously, we got to keep cleaning them up, but at the end of the day, we did a lot of good things. I thought we had a lot of really good opportunities. Offensively that we hadn't had in the last few games. We were playing connected better, and but obviously there's still some things we got to. Our puck management's got to be a little bit better. Knowing when to make a play versus when to deposit a puck and make them turn. Often you want to give the guys their opportunity to be creative, but we got to instill just real good, simple details still right now. And as I said to our staff, it's important for our guys to enjoy this. We haven't had a win this year. And as you know, and for our guys now, to come back this week, it's amazing what a win can do mentally. It was a hard week for our guys. We're coming off of 3 straight losses to Niagara. It was a hard grinding week, challenging every day, video, it wasn't easy, and for them to get rewarded, I think that it's good for our guys, and it's very, very well deserving.
Really good stuff there, honestly. I don't know. Talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, There was a lot of good things, and I think the biggest thing he mentioned in there as well was just forming a connection and just mentally getting a win there. With a team with so much turnover from seniors and veteran players, and your captains leaving and bringing back only one of your captains, a couple of core returners, and then a host of brand new guys. It's big to get a win. It's big to get the group firing together. The lines essentially as well, like the line combinations and defensive pairings, stayed pretty similar to what it was against in the final game against Niagara, which was good to see that they had a bunch of guys forming connections together. Passing was very tight. There was a couple of freshmen that really stood out as well. A couple that stood out and didn't find themselves under the score sheet, but a couple that definitely benefited from the score sheet. That's what you need to do. That's the game that you needed to get everybody kind of focused on playing with each other and getting their bond up before you head into CCHA play, which is a very quick turnaround. I mean, you're getting into games that actually matter this weekend against Lake Superior State on the road. Which is not an easy place to play, and to start your season on the road as well is certainly not easy.
Yeah, and what do you expect to see out of this series, based first on, what you know of Lake Superior State and, their history in recent years?
Yeah, it's going to be a big task on the defense because Lake Superior State always, they bring a very offensive style of hockey. They just really... they come out to score. They've led the CCHA in scoring, or at least been top three the last couple of years. They've also tended to be really good, and the first couple of weeks, the first part of the year, and then once you turn into the new year, they kind of fall off. 2 years in a row, they were actually a top 4 team, and then fell down to one of the bottom 3 teams after the turn of the year. So expecting them to be a very tough team to play early. They're bringing back a lot of players and a lot of high scorers. Dawson Tritt is one that comes to mind. I believe Sasha Telegwin's gone, but they've got some very nice scorers. They've got a nice goaltender as well that'll help them on the defensive side. But your defense, your defensemen, your more defensive forwards are going to have to be good. Your penalty kill is going to have to be good because they're good on the power play. And I think it's definitely a very nice starting game for the Falcons because it's not a great team. It's not a bad team, and you're going to get to see kind of where you stand, the things you need to improve before you get too deep into tough teams here in conference play.
I was going to say what you kind of just hit on the head and took the words for me. Like, I feel like a middle of the road team, I feel like that's like ideal in this early situation. I mean, you don't want to get smacked around by somebody that is like a dynasty type team and be questioning your lines or this and that and the other, but you also don't want to just skate by and not learn anything. So I mean, I think it's, and especially going on the road, getting a road series in early, I think is going to present value too, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
It's it's a drive. It's not like you're going to Mankato or Bemidji or Sioux Falls for Augustana. Like it's a drive. It's a good bonding experience. It's a closer away game. It's against a mid-level team, which you should be able to beat. At least take one, if not compete in both. And if you do, that would kind of put you as one of the top 4 teams, I'd say, because Lake Superior is about as middle of the road as I can imagine. Got some good incoming freshmen, some good returners, and it'll be, a good test for Willie and a kind of new coaching staff, as well as a team that's still trying to find the blade of their skate and make their mark with a bunch of young guys.
Yeah, I mean, one of those scenarios where you just need games to tell, right?
Yeah. I couldn't. It's all speculation. Like, I couldn't tell you. They played one series against Niagara, who is completely different style of hockey than what we see in the CCHA, and a more veteran team than a lot of teams in the CCHA as well. You've only seen pretty much, if you count exhibition as a half, 3 games of Falcon hockey this year, so you don't know who's going to be your guys going forward, your big scorers. A guy scores 1 goal, he's your top scorer as of right now. So, I mean, that you can speculate, but it's all going to depend on this weekend.
That's some of the fun of it. But, yeah, I think anybody who is interested in hockey in general, especially Falcons fans, should be fired up about just getting a conference series. It'll be really nice when there's a home conference series, but just getting into conference play, 3 periods that actually mean something more than an exhibition. I personally am pretty fired up about. I also am really glad that the CCHA does not have to, correct me if I'm wrong, does not have to use that weird points percentage because Augustana is going to play in a full CCHA
They are
season
playing a full schedule
this year.
season, which I thought, different conversation for a different time, but I thought they benefited quite highly from not having to play a full schedule. They played every team, but they didn't have to play, I think, 10 games or something, which is a lot of games to not be beat up on. You can pretty much take
in the sport,
a couple of weekends
taxing,
off.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they're playing a full schedule. They're still going to be a team that really competes, and they're pretty much the replacement for St. Thomas, who's playing in their final season in the CCHA before they move over to the NCHC. So Augustana, get used to looking at them, and the Tommies will be moving up and out of the way of the Falcons. So the Tommies are definitely going to try and make their mark this season. And Augustana has been good the last 2 years. They're going to really try and cement themselves as a team to beat as well, up there with Minnesota State, Michigan Tech, and probably Bowling Green as well.
And another thing that sticks out to me, just kind of refamiliarizing with the CCHA, the Northern Michigan record. I know it's early games and whatever, but 0-6 is.
It's not going to get better. They play Michigan State this week. And Michigan State's a top.
Indicative of the Northern Michigan team we saw last year.
Yeah, I am really excited for this season because it's so tight from top to bottom. Like Northern Michigan is by far the worst team, I'd say. Every other team can split every weekend, and nobody would be surprised. I don't see any teams really that are going to be separating themselves. Maybe St. Thomas, maybe Minnesota State, just out of what they've done previously. Maybe Augustana.
Legacy pick, right?
Yeah, but it's all based on legacy, and they've lost players, they've gained players. But Bemidji 2 years ago, Matthias Scholl was goaltender of the year, was bad last year. Minnesota State's got Alex Tracy, who was one of the best, if not the best goaltender in the NCAA. Is he going to be good this year? Who knows? Michigan Tech got a bunch of new guys. Lake Superior State's going to be mid-tier again. Fair State's got a new head coach, a bunch of new guys. Bowling Green's got a bunch of new guys. Bemidji State had a lot of turnover from last season as well. So it's going to be so interesting. In my opinion, it's going to be the best conference to watch out for if you're a BG fan of everything. It's probably the tightest for my money. It's got the one with the most parity. Pretty similar to MVC this year. I think it'll be fun as I'll get out.
It's really interesting to kind of watch the development of the familiar opponents. And just how Bowling Green kind of cements their place in these conferences that aren't the Mid-American Conference, where you're not seeing the same faces.
Yeah.
I know on the soccer side, there's a couple of familiar faces. Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, but still.
There's not one we see.
No,
you don't see one.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's cool. Yeah, thank God we don't see Western Michigan.
Seriously, those pesky Broncos just can't escape them.
Yeah, they just win the national championship, and whatever.
Falcons will kick off conference play in hockey with their series against Lake Superior State at Lake Superior State this Friday and Saturday, with 7:07 as the tip-off time for both of those. And Benjamin, are you going to be there?
I will be there. Yep.
Awesome. We'll have the call here on 88.1.
WBGU, 15 minutes prior to game time.
Tune in to hear Mr. Korak there calling that game. Should be a really exciting opening conference series for the hockey team. That wraps up the recaps of Falcon action from the past week. As always, stay tuned with all of our content on bgfalconmedia.com and check out BG Falcon Media on social media, as well as at BG_FMSN on Twitter X. But before we wrap this show up, I want to talk just for these last 5 or so minutes, and I'm going to put you guys on the spot. It could be this season since, football started. I know there's some hockey going. Just in recency, last couple months, last week, etc., what's the most surprised that you've been by a game result?
Oh, wow.
With Bowling Green?
Just in general. You can pick whatever sport you want.
Goodness. I think for me, it's volleyball taking Purdue and Georgia Tech to 5 sets back-to-back. They still lost. But at least for me, that's
some top shelf competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna look it up right now. I don't know where Purdue is in the NCAA volleyball rankings.
Oh, I was about to say West Lafayette.
Yeah. I mean, Purdue is currently 12th. You took them to 5 sets. They're 13-3. So you could have added a 4th loss to that. You know, you played very tight with them. I believe Kansas is still ranked. Kansas is still number 15, who you took to 4 sets. Georgia Tech's no longer ranked, but they received votes this week, as well as Michigan State, as well as Indiana, who Indiana's now number 22. You played them. So I guess just the non-conference of Bowling Green volleyball and their, how well they performed and how tightly they played with some very good teams.
I would say not Bowling Green related, but Ohio losing to Ball State was pretty crazy to me because OU is like you thought they were going to run away with it. Yeah. And it's like when you lose to Ball State, it's like we obviously
so many questions now.
And it's like we say all the time, like anybody can beat anybody, and you kind of just say that because like that is always like, I don't know, is it true or not? And like that just proved that like
I mean it's games like that are why it's a thing we say to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was pretty shocking because that also opened the door just for like any team. It's like all we got to do is just like go on a run and you're like, get yourself to Detroit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the game that I was trying to find because I knew there was one that was crazy. I mean, I guess I'll take the cop-out answer. Just Bowling Green not being able to put it together against Central Michigan. I feel like that, in my eyes, having that much momentum from the Toledo game, it has to go down as one of the most shocking this week, I would say.
No, I'm with you on that one. Foster?
I know I took the cop-out answer.
You did.
I'm sorry.
You're taking my cop-out answer.
It doesn't have to be Bowling Green.
It doesn't. Well, I was going to take Sean's. I just couldn't remember which team it was.
So here's
I knew it was
the
one
thing.
of the top
The most sports that I have recently consumed, and I know all of you know, is exhibition basketball for college basketball.
This guy.
And there hasn't been like any crazy upsets or anything like that. Cincinnati did beat Michigan 198.
Yeah, Michigan didn't play either of their centers though.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't get a good look at them. But there's been nothing like huge. I mean, the Toledo one was huge, especially because they were down at halftime.
Yeah.
But, I've been locked into college basketball. It starts this week for me.
Yeah. I would say overall across the entire season, maybe like all sports too, maybe Texas. Like Texas now being
Texas is struggling.
No, they're ranked, but
they're ranked again because they beat Oklahoma.
But they went to overtime yesterday with Kentucky, which was crazy. I was actually also going to bring up. It wasn't shocking, but when LSU loses, it always.
I mean, it's shocking how low they are.
It feels great.
It's shocking how low they are now, considering
the expectations
they were number 2.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Penn State and Texas both were like
everybody
loved them, and it's like
that's my answer. I was based off of last season, based off of some returners. I mean, phenomenal running back duo, quarterback who I thought was going to kind of put it together. In that same conversation.
Defensive coordinator coming off a national championship.
Yeah. Jim Knowles.
I could not have been just to fall off of Penn State.
Yeah.
I guess you'd have to
I'm
pick.
here for it.
The Oregon game was fine.
Exactly.
I think James Franklin critics were like, you're supposed to win one of these finally. And, that's a valid criticism. But, that's a game that teams lose every year. Is a ranked game,
Yeah.
But I guess it's the UCLA one then. I mean, the Northwestern one's also crazy, insane.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the UCLA one to get punched in the mouth by Oregon and then not turn around. The good teams, I feel like you always see right the ship. I mean, Ohio State loses to Michigan last year, goes on and, frankly, all-time, run of at least those first 2 wins were just absolute dominance.
Yeah.
I really thought that Penn State would just rebound, lose to Oregon. He's still gonna play for an at-large bid in the Big Ten schedule. I've never seen anything like it.
I will say this: Drew's from my hometown. I'm from Medina, just like him. Yeah, and so I think personally he was in such a bad system at Penn State. I just don't think he was ever given the opportunities that he could have had if Quinn wasn't at Ohio State at that time when he was getting recruited. Like they were both getting recruited at the same time.
Yeah.
So if Drew could have been at Ohio State, I think it completely flips his story. I still think he will go to the NFL and be a fine backup. I don't know if he'll ever get to the starting role, but I think it sucks for him that that's how it has to end at Penn State with his injury and Franklin gone now.
Teams wanted to draft him. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
last
Yeah.
year he's got it's the traits. It's something I always have to remember is like the difference in what makes a college player good versus like what makes an NFL quarterback somebody that you could put on your roster.
Well, that's
that's a different argument too.
Right.
But like, I just don't understand why he would come back.
Yeah,
like
after that run.
Yeah,
I just
he should have just
his
taken
value
it.
was not going to go up.
No.
Yeah,
So,
One-
he should have just taken. the
defense was
contract
only going to
and
get
left.
worse. I guess you brought in Jim Knowles, but I think he decided
they
he
went
was
to-
returning before
Penn
that.
State
anyway.
as a team wasn't going to do better this
No.
year.
It also,
Than he did last year.
It
Yeah.
also took
And
3
he's
years
leading.
for Knowles to put in his defense to get it to where it was at Ohio State.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is it going to be that quick that at Penn State?
Unfortunate break for him, but
It is, without a
But yeah,
doubt.
I think that's my shock of the
That one
the
wins.
sports fall.
Fair.
But
I'll
It
give you
wins.
that, yeah.
I completely.
Oh yeah,
Went past my head.
Buried Penn State in my mind as. Well,
It's kinda
that's how they
sad.
go. Yeah.
But with that, that's going to do it for us here on the Zig Zone. As always, check out bgfalconmedia.com and Falcon Media Sports Network on all platforms to keep updated with everything going on in Falcon Athletics. For Ben Korak, Foster Rostai, Sean Connolly, and Noah Seeley, I'm Holden Ruck saying Izzy Zumba.